The moment Sloan Harrington said his name, something inside Carter Whitfield didn't break. It tightened. It was the kind of tightness that doesn't show on the face, but lingers behind the eyes. "I think we should invite him," she said, her voice calm, almost rehearsed. Carter didn't respond right away. He just watched her. Watched the way she avoided looking directly at him. Watched how her fingers lightly tapped against the marble kitchen counter like she was waiting for a reaction she had already prepared for. "For closure," she added. That word landed heavier than anything else she could have said. Closure. As if their relationship was a chapter still open. As if their future wedding required someone from her past to make it feel complete. Carter finally exhaled slowly. "Closure for who?" he asked. Sloan looked up then, meeting his eyes for just a second too long. "For me," she said. That was the moment Carter realized this wasn't about a guest list. This was about something unfinished. And he wasn't sure if he was standing in the middle of a wedding or the aftermath of something that had never truly ended. Sloan Harrington and Carter Whitfield had built their relationship on precision. Everything was intentional. Everything was structured. They met in Manhattan at a corporate fundraiser where both of them knew exactly how to present themselves. Sloan was composed, articulate, and strategically warm. Carter was grounded, analytical, and quietly observant. There were no games between them. No chaos. No emotional volatility. At least, that's what Carter believed. Until the names surfaced. Ethan Calloway. The man Sloan had once almost married. The man she never spoke about in detail. The man Carter only knew existed because of a single, vague reference early in their relationship. It didn't work out, she had said back then. And Carter had respected that boundary. Now that same man was suddenly relevant again. Not as a memory. Not as a lesson. But as a presence. At their wedding. "Why now?" Carter asked later that evening when the silence between them had stretched too far. Sloan stood near the window, looking out at the quiet Upper East Side street below. "I've been thinking about it," she said. "For how long?" Carter asked. She didn't answer immediately. And that delay said more than anything else. "A while," she admitted. Carter nodded slowly. So this wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a passing thought. This was something she had been carrying. Something she had been protecting. "Do you still talk to him?" Carter asked. "No," she said quickly. Too quickly. Carter didn't challenge it. Not yet. But something about the speed of that answer felt practiced. Like a reflex rather than a truth. "He deserves to see that I've moved on," she added. Carter almost laughed at that. Not out of humor, but out of disbelief. "Or you need to prove it to yourself," he said quietly. That was the first time Sloan's composure shifted. Just slightly, but enough for Carter to notice. "You're overthinking this," she said. "No, Carter replied. I'm finally thinking about it." The days that followed didn't explode into arguments. They settled into something worse. Politeness. Careful conversations. Measured responses. Sloan moved through wedding planning like nothing had changed. Guest lists. Zitting charts. Floral arrangements. Everything looked perfect. Everything felt wrong. Carter started noticing things he hadn't paid attention to before. The way Sloan checked her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. The way certain names on the guest list triggered subtle pauses. The way she avoided deeper conversations about the past. Not lied, just redirected. And redirection, Carter knew, was sometimes more revealing than dishonesty. One evening, Carter made a decision. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. He searched for Ethan Calloway. Not obsessively, not desperately, just enough to understand who this man was and what he represented. Ethan wasn't hard to find. He was successful, established, living in Charleston, South Carolina. Investment firm, private clientele, clean reputation, no public scandals, no obvious red flags. If anything, Ethan Calloway looked like someone who could have easily been standing where Carter was now. And that realization didn't create jealousy. It created something more complicated. Comparison. Before we go further, pause for a second and think about this. If you were in Carter's position, would you want to know everything about the person your partner once almost married? Or would you choose not to look at all? Would knowing the truth bring clarity? Or just create doubt that didn't exist before? Carter didn't share what he found. Not immediately. He waited, watched, observed, because he wasn't trying to catch Sloan in something. He was trying to understand her, and understanding someone requires patience, not confrontation. A week later, Sloane brought it up again. I sent him an invitation, she said casually over dinner. Carter didn't react, not externally, but internally, something shifted permanently. You didn't ask me first, he said. I thought we already talked about it, she replied. That wasn't a decision, Carter said. That was a conversation. Sloane sighed. I didn't think it would matter this much to you. And there it was. Minimization. The quiet reframing of something significant into something small. It matters because it's not just about him being there, Carter said. It's about why you need him there. Sloane didn't answer. Because she couldn't. Or maybe because the answer wasn't simple. Days passed, and then the response came. Ethan Qley, RSVPD. Attending. That single confirmation changed everything. The wedding was no longer just a celebration. It became a stage. And Carter knew it. He just didn't know what role he was playing in it. The tension didn't explode. It deepened. Sloane became more distant. Not cold, just divided. Like part of her attention was somewhere else. Carter didn't accuse her. He didn't demand answers. Because by now, he understood something important. If someone is emotionally somewhere else, forcing them to stay present doesn't bring them back. It only reveals how far they've already gone. The wedding day arrived in Charleston, a carefully curated venue overlooking the water. Everything elegant, everything intentional, everything flawless on the surface. Guests arrived. Smiles, laughter, champagne glasses clinking. And then Ethan walked in. Carter saw him before Sloane did. Tall, composed, effortless in a way that didn't feel performative. And for a moment, Carter understood exactly why this man still existed in Sloane's mind. Not because of unfinished love, but because of unfinished identity. Ethan represented a version of Sloane's life that never happened. And sometimes, those imagined lives are harder to let go of than real relationships. Sloane saw him next. And in that single moment, Carter saw everything he needed to see. Not longing, not love, but recognition. A quiet acknowledgement of something that once mattered deeply, and maybe still did. Ethan approached them. Polite, respectful, measured. Carter, he said, extending his hand. Carter shook it. Firm, controlled. Sloane, Ethan said softly. Sloane smiled. Not widely, not emotionally, but enough. Enough to confirm that this wasn't just closure. This was confrontation, but not the kind anyone else could see. The ceremony began, and Carter stood at the altar, waiting, watching, not just Sloane, but himself, because this moment wasn't about whether she chose him. It was about whether he chose this version of her, the version that still needed something from the past to feel complete. As Sloane walked down the aisle, Carter made a decision. Not dramatic, not visible, but final. And before we continue, ask yourself this. Would you move forward with a marriage if you felt like you were competing with a past that never truly ended? Or would you walk away, even if everything looked perfect on the surface? Sloane reached him. They exchanged vows. Words that sounded right. Words that felt practiced. Words that everyone believed. Except Carter. Because he wasn't listening to the words anymore. He was watching the space between them. And that space was real. After the ceremony, during the reception, Carter found Ethan standing alone near the terrace. Not hiding, not intruding, just present. Carter walked over. Not aggressively, not confrontationally, just directly. Why did you come? Carter asked. Ethan didn't hesitate. Because she asked me to, he said. That's not a reason, Carter replied. Ethan looked at him then. Really looked at him. It is, he said calmly. And because I wanted to see if she had actually moved on. Carter nodded slowly. And, he asked. Ethan didn't answer immediately. And that silence told Carter everything. She chose you. Ethan said finally. That's not what I asked, Carter replied. Ethan gave a small, almost sympathetic smile. That's the only answer that matters, he said. Carter stood there for a moment, then nodded, and walked away, not because he accepted it, but because he understood it. Later that night, after the guests had begun to leave, Carter found Sloane alone. The music had softened. The lights dimmed. The performance was over. Did you get your closure? He asked. Sloane looked at him, and for the first time all day, she didn't have a prepared answer. I don't know, she admitted. And that honesty, raw and uncertain, was the most real thing she had said in weeks. Carter nodded. "I think I did," he said. Sloane's expression shifted. "What do you mean?" she asked. Carter took a breath. Measured. Calm. "I understand now that this wasn't about him," he said. "It was about you not being sure that this is what you really wanted." Sloane shook her head slightly. "That's not true," she said. But even she didn't sound convinced. Carter didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse her. Because by now, none of that was necessary. "Maybe you do want this," he said. "But not completely." Sloane's eyes filled slightly. Not with tears, but with realization. And realization is often heavier than emotion. "What are you saying?" she asked quietly. Carter looked at her, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with clarity. "I'm saying that I don't want to be someone you choose while still wondering about someone else," he said. The silence that followed was absolute. No music, no distractions, just truth. And truth doesn't need volume to be heard. Carter took a step back, not dramatically, just enough to create space. Real space. "I hope you find whatever it is you're still looking for," he said. And then he walked away, not out of weakness, but out of self-respect. Sloane didn't stop him, because deep down, she knew he was right. And sometimes, the hardest thing isn't losing someone. It's realizing why you lost them.